Hello and welcome back to another video of Concept Bio. In this video series, I'm going to be talking about amino acid titrations. And calculation of the isoelectric point and so on for amino acids. So let's get into it. So why do we study the titration? Is basically to study the effect of pH on the amino acid structure. Based on different pH values, the structure variation occurs. Now we all know every amino acid has at least two ionizable groups. I'll just draw it out for you. We have every amino acid structure will have an alpha carbon. To that will be attached your alpha carboxyl group, your alpha amino group, a hydrogen group, and an R group. Now, in all these amino acids, the alpha carboxyl group and the alpha amino group are always ionizable in nature. And only for a few amino acids, the R group or the functional group is also ionizable in nature. So the R groups that fall under this category are for glutamic acid, aspartic acid, histidine, arginine, lysine, cysteine, and tyrosine. So I'll be going on to these amino acids and why in the next a little later on, but first we'll get into the basics of it. So now if it has a carboxyl group and an amino group, from my first video you can remember that all amino acids are amphoteric in nature, meaning they can accept and donate a hydrogen ion. Meaning the carboxyl group can donate a hydrogen ion, making it COO minus, that's ionized, and the amino group can accept a hydrogen ion, making it NH3 positive. So this is also ionized in nature. So these are the ionizable groups and sometimes the R group too. So the isoelectric point is the point or the pH where the amino acid has a net neutral charge, or it is said to be in the Zwitter ion state. Meaning, I'll talk about it later, but just for understanding, it means that the total charge of this amino acid would sum up to be 0. In this case, the total charge is 1. The net charge here is positive 1. Why? Because from the amino group we're getting a plus 1 charge. From the carboxyl group, nothing is cancelling it out, so the total charge is 1. So this is not a Zwitter ion state. To explain the Zwitter ion state, let's look at the example of alanine. So we'll all know what alanine structure looks like. We'll start with the protonated structure. We'll have COOH, protonated H. One second. We'll have the R group, which is nothing but the methyl group attached to it. And finally, we have your NH3 and H3 plus. So this is a protonated state we'll all look at. So what happens is one thing that you have to understand is when we add or change the pH, there's something known as the pKa value for each group. What does pKa value mean? Ka is nothing but the acid dissociation constant, and pKa is nothing but the negative logarithm of the Ka value which you have. So what this basically means is that if the pH, so there are a few conditions that occur. If the pH is less than the pKa value for that particular group, then that group becomes protonated in nature. So if you look at the acid, that is COO or the carboxyl group, if the pH is below the pKa value, then it becomes a COOH structure, and the base amino would become in the NH3 positive structure. If the pH is greater than the pKa value for that group, then it becomes deprotonated, such that the carboxyl group would become then COO minus because it lost a hydrogen group, and the amino group, if it loses a hydrogen group, it will become NH2, no charge. So one inference we can make here is when an acid gets protonated, the net charge on it is neutral. For a base, it becomes positive. If an acid gets deprotonated, it will become a negative charge, whereas the base will become a neutral charge. So then you can ask what happens if the pH is equal to the pKa. Then in this criteria, 50% becomes deprotonated, 50% becomes protonated. Alright, so now let's go back to the structure. Now the first thing that we encounter is pKa1. pKa1 corresponds to the alpha carboxyl group. Always, doesn't matter where. This question usually comes in interviews and all. pKa1 corresponds to what? It always corresponds to this, the alpha the carboxyl group. The pKa2 always corresponds to your alpha amino group, that's the positive, and pKa3 always corresponds to the R group. Alright, so now if the pH is all the way down, suppose 1 and 1 is less than pKa1, the carboxyl group gets protonated, and this is the structure we get. Now suppose we increase the pH such that pH is greater than pKa1. What would the structure be? Then over here your carboxyl group gets deprotonated, as I mentioned previously, and remaining stuff remains the same. So we have NH3 plus and H. Alright, so if you look at this, the net charge is similar to the first structure that we made. So the net charge here is positive 1. Now over here, if you look, over here we have the net charge will be plus 1 from your amino group, minus 1 from your carboxyl group. So what does that lead you to? 0. And this is your Zwitter ion, meaning it has both a positive charge and a negative charge on the same molecule structure. Alright, so now we have to continue. Now this pH has slightly increased over to pKa1. Suppose pH over here is equal to something like 3 or 4, suppose like that. Let's make it 4. Now for our experiment, we continue increasing the pH such that we cross another place called the pKa2. Now pKa2, as I mentioned before, please remember this, always corresponds to alpha amino group. Now if my pH increases above pKa2, then what would it look like? It would look like COO minus, because this already got deprotonated. The methyl group, as I had mentioned, only few amino acids have an ionizable group. Alanine is not part of it, and the methyl group can never become ionized in this condition. And the alpha amino group gets deprotonated, meaning the NH3 becomes an NH2, losing its charge. And finally, H. So what will the net charge be over here? In this case, it would be just minus 1 from the carboxyl acid. And this is what you get in the other spectrum. Now this is what basically happens when you're dealing with the isoelectric point determination of an amino acid. You just have to try to find out where the Zwitter ion occurs. Now a formula that is used to calculate the isoelectric point of Pi. Pi is the isoelectric point. We take the pK values just before and just after the Zwitter ion formed. So in this case, it will be pKa1 plus pKa2 divided by 2, and this is the formula for isoelectric point. Please make a note of this, and this always happen. Remember, always pKa, the two pKa's taken will be the pKa just before and just after the Zwitter ion structure of the amino acid. Alright, there are some, you have to remember this because some conditions, if you're looking at these amino acids, sometimes pKa3 also will come into consideration, which I'll talk about just a little later. Finally, what I would like to talk about is the application of all this mess. So what actually happens? Oh, by the way, this whole worksheet will be available for free of cost to download in the description box below. Since I had some issues with my printing, that the first page was not able to done, that's why I had handwritten it. The remaining notes are available in a text format. Please feel free to work it along with me. So what's the significance of the isoelectric point calculation? So the pH, so I just told you the Zwitter ion state. Now one important aspect about the Zwitter ion is it becomes non-mobile. The molecule at its Zwitter ion structure becomes non-mobile, and therefore we can start using this to extract it out of the solution. So if you have a gradient pH structure, imagine these are different like pH1, pH2, pH3, pH4, and you keep a sample here and connect it to a power supply, and then this will start migrating based on its charge. Suppose if this is your positive terminal and this has a negative charge at 3, it will start moving it till a point where it becomes 0 charge or its Zwitter ion structure. So different proteins will have different Pi values, and so you can stop it here and you can start collecting out proteins. So if you have two proteins that have the same molecular weight, you can take them, separate them out based on the charge difference that occurs at different pH values. Now this is a principle used in 2D gel electrophoresis. Gel electrophoresis. Why 2D? Because first you would run it in a this isoelectric focusing. This is called isoelectric focusing, and then this protein, whatever proteins that you collected that pH, you would then put it into a page, the polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis apparatus, to then separate it out based on molecular weight. So first you will separate the similar molecular weight, then you will separate out the dissimilar molecular weight, and this is a very good example to be done. Now, due to time constraint, I'm going to stop this video over here. In my next video, I'm going to be talking about the exception amino acids and how to calculate the PI for them, and how to calculate the PI for a polypeptide chain. Suppose if I say glycine, proline, threonine, and valine, find the charge at pH 5. What would it be? Will be given in my next video. Thank you for watching. This has been Concept Bio. Feel free to ask any questions in the comment section down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye.